Hello and thank you for downloading the Saturn PCB Toolkit. In this video I will be discussing the program options, which can be found in the Tools menu, Program Options. The first option here is the IPC version for Conductor Calc. This option, this radio group here, controls the via current and the conductor current amperage in both the conductor's property and the via properties. I think in later versions of this toolkit I will rename this to something that includes both. If you're not familiar with the IPC 2152 spec, I strongly suggest downloading it, going to www.ipc.org and familiarizing yourself with it, because there's a lot of information in there, a lot of charts and graphs, a lot to understand. The toolkit gives me the option of saying without modifiers, which means there's nothing. It correlates to the most conservative graph in the 2152 spec. This will all but guarantee that your trace width will be okay. It's not going to be undersized for the current that you're trying to pass through it. The modifiers turns on. Well, let me go over here first. You can see here that right now I have the without modifiers mode. And you can see that plane present and parallel conductors is grayed out, distance to plane is grayed out, PCB thickness is grayed out. And I have a 10 mil wide trace, and that says 0.6872 amps. Now what that means is 0.6872 amps going through this 10 mil trace with 2.1 mil thick copper will raise the temperature of the trace 20 degrees C above ambient, which is 22. If I turn on the modifiers, then I have the option for parallel conductors. Turn that on here. Parallel conductors, plane present, things like that. But for right now, I just want to stick to the options. The IPC 2221 is no longer used for current consumption. There's other things in the spec that are still used, but for current consumption it's obsolete. I leave it in here for reference. There's a lot of online tools that still use the 2221, but don't use it. Just use the 2152. Etch factor. I give you the ability to select etch factor 1:1 or none. And I think it's pretty obvious what this is. In PCB manufacturing, you're not going to get a perfectly rectangular trace after the acid etching. It's going to have rounded, chamfered corners a bit. Sometimes, depending on the way they plate it, it can actually look like a mushroom. But the 1:1, I'll go to Randy here, Randy Clemens' blog. He has a good picture here of what 1:1 means. It's where the X and the Y are equal. So we just call it etch factor 1:1. If you want, you can turn this off or turn it to etch factor none, and you will get the rectangular trace. And you can see down in the bottom or below the options where it's changing the conductor cross section, and obviously it's going to change the conductor current. Copper weight. The toolkit comes with an array of standard base copper weights and plating thicknesses to choose from in the radio group, or you can enter them manually. For example, I say 1 ounce copper equals 1.4 mils. Some people like to say it's 1.35. I think technically it really is 1.35, but it's so close. Forever and ever we used 1.4. I see no reason to change it now. So you can do that if you want. Disable via height for current. The IPC 2152, because it found that the PCB substrate is actually a better heat sink than air, which is the opposite of what we used to think, slightly anyway, but it is. The depth of the via the thickness of the board, according to the 2152, affects the temperature of the via. So they found that a via that has a long via that has a lot of thermal mass, which is the substrate material, can handle a little bit more current because it's dissipating the heat. If I go over here, now for this to work, you have to have the modifiers on. So if I turn modifiers on, you'll see the via height, and you can see the conductor current. And if I change that, let's see here, I think I have it disabled. Yeah, I have it, I'm sorry, I have this disabled. If I enable it, you can see how changing the via height will change the via current. A lot of people pushed back on this. I kind of agreed with them. It's not my formula. This is just what the IPC 2152 says. So I give people the option to disable this. So you can disable that completely, and it disregards the via height in the calculation. So that concludes the program options, at least for now. If anyone has any questions, please post in the YouTube forum, or they can email us at sales@saturnpcb.com. Thank you.